it was also to do messaging for the opposition parties because they should not doubt Sharad Pawar's intention, because he was somebody who was instrumental in bringing opposition parties together, and he still talks about opposition unity. So by expelling Ajit Pawar, Praful Patel, others, and also by taking action on other MLAs who have joined NDA, Sharad Pawar has given clear message to the opposition parties that he is very much on his side. And in fact, during the press conference also, the issues like Manipur was raised, and also that how, NCP will not tolerate anybody joining hands with communal forces. So that was also commentary which was made during the press conference.
All right, my colleague Siddhant getting us all the details of that important story. Yes, the fallout in the NCP has direct bearing on the opposition unity, and hence that meeting of Rahul Gandhi with Mr. Sharad Pawar. Let's now talk about the big story that we talk on Viewpoint tonight. The Uniform Civil Code that continues to be vigorously debated as the Law Commission has sought views from different stakeholders across the country. All India Muslim Personal Law Board has fiercely opposed any kind of intervention into the Sharia law. There's a special group of ministers that have been formed by the government, comprising top 4 ministers of the centre. The move by the government is clearly indicative of the serious intent to make Uniform Civil Code a reality. The criticism are aplenty. The opposition parties have criticized the government for lack of substantial proposal on the table for wider consultation. Amidst all of this, there are voices that have equated the idea of a uniform civil code with the imposition, and I'm quoting, of the majoritarian rule. Nothing can be further from reality. On this edition of Viewpoint, we talk about the challenges to the implementation of the UCC, and does this idea really tantamount to the imposition of the so-called majority rule? Our focus on Viewpoint tonight.
यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड के नाम पर ऐसे लोगों को भड़काने का काम हो रहा है, फिर ऐसी दोहरी व्यवस्था से देश कैसे चल पाएगा?
मुल्क में किसी भी किस्म का कोई भी यूसीसी की न पहले ज़रूरत थी और न आज है.
அந்த பொது சிவில் சட்டம் என்பது நாட்டிலே ஏற்கனவே सिविल सट्टम क्रिमिनल सट्टम एंड सट्टम இருக்கிறது.
मैजॉरिटेरियनिज्म का दौर इस मुल्क में चलाने की कोशिश की जा रही है. शक तो होता ही है कि इनके इरादे सही नहीं है.
There are some facts and there are some myths. Each time we talk about a uniform civil code, you will encounter both of them. Here is our attempt to list out few stereotypes that you will hear about the Uniform Civil Code but are not true. Many people will have you believe that the Uniform Civil Code will impact how you pray, eat or dress. Well, that's a myth. No law can prescribe a religious dress code, food habits or any kind of customs and their imposition on any community or religion in this country. That is guarded by the Indian Constitution. It is a facet of right to privacy, and nobody after the Supreme Court judgment can take it away. Let's come to the second one. Many argue that UCC will adversely affect the cultural diversity in this country. Well, the cultural diversity, the religious diversity within the Hindu religion has existed despite the rationalization of personal laws. Uniform Civil Code cannot regulate language, festivals, customs or traditions that is outside the purview of any law or statutory framework that may come if UCC becomes a reality. The third and the most important one. You heard about the majoritarian rule. Earlier you heard about these voices saying that now Hindu law will be imposed on other communities. There is no Hindu law in this country. Yes, there is a Hindu Marriage Act and certain set of statutes under the Hindu Code Bill, but they've been rationalized. The law very clearly states that that law applies only to Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains, not to any other community in this country. The constitution of the country guards against any such imposition. UCC, many argue, will dislodge nikah, saat phere or a church wedding, your customary weddings, like they have always happened in this country and across the world. Well, the fact of the matter is that ceremonies will continue to happen. Law can prescribe how they will be recognized. Like in UK, you can have a church wedding or Saat Phere, but you need to go and register that wedding for it to be legally tenable. That's all Uniform Civil Code might do. Many also argue that a secular country can't have a uniform civil code. I agree that there are a lot of impediments in the way in the implementation of a uniform civil code, various challenges that the diversity throws upon us, but most secular democracies have a common civil code. Other than India, there is no modern democratic nation that has a parallel verse of personal laws like India has. So clearly, secularism, democracy and a uniform civil code has been together as an idea in many other democracies. It can be so in India as well. Let's take this question to our panel of guests as well who are joining us on the broadcast. I want to quickly introduce all our guests who are joining us on the broadcast. We have Mr. Sanjay Ghosh, who's a senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India, Rashmi Sawant, who's a Hindu rights activist, Zakia Soman, a women's rights activist, somebody who's worked in the field of Muslim women rights for a very long time, Sumit Chandar, who's an advocate, and Saira Shah Halim, a social activist, joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Ghosh, coming to you first and taking in a view from you, the idea of a uniform civil code. You've worked on many of such matters, and I want to take in your view. How can anybody be opposed to the idea of a uniform civil code? And if anyone is, aren't they opposing the idea of gender parity or equality?
I don't think anyone can be against a uniform civil code. The Constitution and Article 44 says that that is the ideal directive principle we have working towards. Issue is what is being put on the table. It's like saying, are you opposed to a good lunch? No, no one will say I'm opposed to a good meal, but what is the meal you're putting on the table? That's the issue.
You're saying who can oppose a good lunch? Nobody can. I want to specifically talk to you about the Muslim personal law. The Muslim personal law, and there are various facets of the Muslim personal law that have been spoken of, Mr. Ghosh. Say issues concerning about child marriage, polygamy and various other issues. No other personal law has been immune to the response and reform as the Muslim personal law. Many people argue. Do you agree with that criticism?
Well, I would say that there are troublesome aspects in every personal law. And you talked about custom, Anusha.
Yeah.
There is a custom in Tamil Nadu of tying the tali, the Mangal Sutra, and that is deemed to be marriage. And in many cases, the women are unable to prove that there was actually marriage because the tying of the tali could not be proved. So therefore, our laws have evolved organically. We had pristine laws and then some of them were codified. But because of the vast diversity of India, and there have been multiple customs everywhere, the legislature in its wisdom felt that we should also allow the customs free play. Now, today you want to codify them, fine. There have been abuses or there have been issues of customary law creating problem. But the issue is this is something which requires a wide societal consensus. It requires all stakeholders to be heard. It requires your proposal to be threadbare discussed and given effect to. So, for example, when they codified the labor laws, which is far less controversial, the government, the Ministry of Labor, put out their proposed codes on their websites and called for the stakeholders to go through it, give their suggestions, and that entire process went through. Ultimately, they even enacted those codes, but still now they have not been able to bring that into force. So, it is very easy to say we have to codify, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So let's see, what happens and when we have this result.
When we have that result, you rightly said that all personal laws have needed reform and need reform. I want to provocatively put that argument to you. Is Muslim personal law more problematic than other personal laws that we have in this country? That's one criticism that has been widely spoken of in the media.
Please reform the Muslim law. Please reform whatever you want to do. I'm not saying so. In our Rig Veda, it is said that let noble thoughts come from all directions. Under the Sharia, Anusha, you may be knowing that a woman cannot be disinherited by a will. So the Quran, the Sharia says that this is the share of a wife or a daughter, and by will you can only will 1/3 of it. The 2/3 you can't will away. So let us have that provision in the Hindus, for the Hindus also. that though in law you're giving the Hindu daughter equal share, but by will the father and the mother can completely disinherit her and give everything to the brother. So now you make a uniform civil code where you will say that that aspect of Shariat will apply to the Hindus also.
Yeah. My last question to you, we have other guests as well with us on the broadcast. My last question to you. Polygamy, child marriage are two of the most problematic aspects of the Muslim personal law, and they have consumed a huge amount of debate, when it's happening in the national sphere. Other than that, there are other problems like female genital mutilation, which many communities recognize as a customary practice, which is protected under the essential religious practice. All these social evils, I argue, must go, even when they are part of personal laws.
Absolutely. Polygamy is wrong. Polygamy should go. And in fact, the concern of the society, I don't know whether you know this, that though the law permits Muslims to legally have more than one wife, but the cases of more than multiple marriages, marriages which may not be legal, are more among the Hindu community. So the issue actually is not polygamy and banning polygamy, but how to protect the women of every community who are abandoned by their husbands.
Okay.
And if you see the legal system, what are the laws? We have so many laws for women as of now, but are we giving effect to this? Is the state funding enough resources, enough protection officers under the Dowry Prohibition Act and the prevention of commission of domestic violence laws? The state has these laws already. So fine, in principle, I agree with you. Of course, no one should say that polygamy is right. No one should, in fact, strictly enforce if you strictly enforce monogamy, you will find that there'll be surprising results. Ultimately, protect the women, whether they are from the majority community or the minority community, who are abandoned by their husbands and who have to go on this legal system for years on end, begging for maintenance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ghosh, for sharing your views with us and opening that debate for all of us. I want to cut across to Rashmi, who continues to be with us on the broadcast. She's a Hindu right activist. Rashmi, there are various criticisms to the proposal of a uniform civil code that have been made. Mr. Sanjay Ghosh argued that despite thorough reform in the Hindu personal law, we still see a lot of abuses happening. And till the time we have a good system in place, we cannot reconcile with the reality of the UCC. How do you see all those arguments? Rashmi.
Well, Anusha, I definitely do agree that implementation is very necessary and that necessary resources need to be allocated to ensure that these laws are upheld by the end of the day. But I do feel that the laws themselves are not sufficient right now, and the Uniform Civil Code is the need of an hour. It remains to be seen what are included and what's not included within the draft. But I definitely do feel that the Uniform Civil Code will go a long way in ensuring that all people have equal rights, and it will especially benefit women, given that they've been at the receiving end of a lot many social evils that have been legitimized in society using laws like these, and wherein personal laws have come in with the whole explanation of customs, and they have disadvantaged women, specifically of certain minority religions, and that this Uniform Civil Code will give them an equal platform to flourish and have a good future as equal citizens of this country.
No, Sumit Chandra, coming to you, there's an interesting point that Mr. Ghosh made. He said that, while Hindu women have got equal right to property now, in the last 2 decades, this entire movement was seen in the judiciary and in the legal world, and this reform was brought in through a will. A lot of women are denied those rights. The same cannot be done under the Muslim personal law. So will we have a uniform code that will govern the entire country as to what will happen in terms of inheritance, which forms a huge part of the debate right now? Under inheritance, you have problematic aspects like the tribal rights, the land rights, matriarchal societies, and much more. But when it comes to the two major religions in this country, Hindus and Muslims, and especially inheritance, can we really have a common civil code? Sumit.
See, it's very simple. Why are we trying to make it just to a specific religion of Hindu or Muslim kind of a fight? Uniform Civil Code, when it comes, is it even practical by virtue of the other provisions of the Constitution? Or Article 44, which provides for a UCC or a Uniform Civil Code, is somewhere in contravention of Article 25 and 26, which talks about freedom to practice religion, freedom to manage religious affairs, So those are the things we need to look into. And it is also that same very constitution which provides certain articles, say Article 371A, which provides special for Nagaland, and 371G for Mizoram, which says that no parliamentary legislation will replace the customary law or religious system. So 2 states in our country, by virtue of this very constitution, is protected. And it clearly says that no parliamentary legislation.
But Sumit, I was reading up today on the autonomous regions and how various countries across the world have some geographical area where there are certain special indigenous rights which are protected. The same can be done in India as well.
So, but those things are to be seen, because if you are talking about civil code coming throughout the country, is it even practical? Say, for example, the smallest of the things, you've already taken the marriage and the succession. But also, when we talk about Hindu law, there is a Hindu undivided family, HUF, which many millions of people in our country are already having properties registered in those names. So when there is a property already existing in a name of an HUF, with the coming of the UCC, what happens to those properties?
Okay, so there are those aspects. I want to raise the moot point that I discussed in the beginning of the show. Saira, coming to you, there was a statement that was made today that this is the imposition of the morality of the majority on the minority. Do you really agree with that kind of oversimplification?
See, I think this is a grounds for facilitating a Hindu Rashtra. I'll be very clear, because here we need to understand that when, the Bharatiya Janata Party talks about nikah halala or talks about divorce, we need to understand that divorces across the spectrum, be it any religion, has come down. So they really cannot.
Can I make an interjection, Saira? I'm sorry, I'm making an interjection.
No.
All right, go ahead.
Finish it out.
Yes, absolutely.
Confusing my train of thought.
Yes, please go ahead.
So what I was saying is, there are thousands of divorce cases in India. However, the issue of nikah halala has been so blown out of proportion. So people get the perception that every Muslim man is out there to commit nikah halala, when the Sharia has clearly condemned and it has been banned under the Sharia. Now, secondly, I want to ask that, okay, you're talking about the Uniform Civil Code. You give us the agenda, you tell us the architecture, show us the draft of the Uniform Civil Code, or is the Bharatiya Janata Party thrust the ordinance upon the citizenry of India without taking the stakeholders into account? I mean, what is happening? It is very clear that it's nothing but election campaigning for 2024. The Bharatiya Janata Party doesn't have any issue of policy that it can boast about. It cannot talk about any achievements, but it has only a divisive agenda, and that is to polarize society to gain from the 2024 election.
Saira,
which is very unfortunate.
You made an argument. You made an opening argument.
If you have the draft ready, show it to the citizens of India.
You made an opening argument that UCC. Saira ji, you made an opening argument that UCC is about Hindu Rashtra. That tantamounts to saying that article. One second, let me make my interjection and I'll give you the time to respond. Are you really saying that Article 44 of the Indian Constitution prescribes that there should be a Hindu Rashtra in this country? And my second point, you say that there is nothing on table for us to agree to. Valid point. There is nothing substantial on table. What is there on the table for you to say that this is the imposition of the majority rule?
See, if you've seen, ever since the Bharatiya Janata Party came into power, it has forgotten that it is a political party of the people of India, which comprises of all sections of society. It is only catering to a majoritarian, worldview, which is very sad, because we need to understand it is still a secular democracy, and you need to work everybody. You need to work for everyone. You need to take all citizens together. So what is happening is, because here we have seen how divisive laws have been implemented simply to marginalize the minorities in the country, whether you talk about the NRC, CA, whether you talk about the farm laws, whether it is abrogation of 370, anything. It is to further marginalize the minorities who are anyway pushed into a corner.
Farm laws were not about the minorities. They were about the entire farming community and the farmers of this country. Zakia ji, I want you to come into the discussion, and I focus on that point because I believe minority communities or stakeholders from the minority community can have a problem with the Uniform Civil Code, and in a secular modern democracy, they have a right to put those objections on table, like the All India Muslim Personal Law Board has done. But to go on to the extent of fear-mongering and argue this is about imposition of the majority rule, this is about Hindu law being imposed on us, or as Saira ji was arguing that it looks like a Hindu Rashtra or the agenda being forwarded, this completely distorts the debate which should have been about the reform of personal laws in this country. Zakia ji.
So that is the nature of our society, Anusha. We continue to be a patriarchal society. Even reform in Hindu laws, the codified Hindu laws, were opposed. But then Nehru and his cabinet proceeded with the reforms. And that's how, to a large extent, Hindu women are able to enjoy some of the rights in marriage and in family today. A similar reform could not happen in the Muslim family law. Of course, I understand that this is part of the politics of the Bharatiya Janata Party. UCC is part of their manifesto. And I also feel that the government, those in government have greater responsibility to build a climate of trust and confidence, because there is a lot which has gone wrong. But that does not take away from the fact that Muslim women, citizens of India, have been legally discriminated against for the longest time, and this anomaly needs to be corrected. So there is incidence of child marriages in our country. There is incidence of polygamy. There is incidence of denying Quranic rights, such as consent, such as meher, such as share in property and inheritance, mothers' rights pertaining to guardianship and custody of children. So not even the Quranic affirmative rights have been given the backing of law. We are just told that we are ruled by the Shariat. But where is the written down Shariat? Why are we not following the example of so many Muslim countries such as Tunisia, Morocco, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, where there are progressive and gender just laws? We have not even borrowed from them. And we have not benefited out of a secular democratic framework which is there in our country. The parliament has also failed in its responsibility, of not codifying Muslim family laws. So this anomaly exists. And on the one side, there is the politics of BJP. On the other side, there is resistance by the Muslim conservative clergy. This gives the perception as though UCC is all about Muslims, as though it was rightly said by the panelists, that it is about all Indians. And it's going to impact all Indians, cutting across faith backgrounds, ethnicity backgrounds, and diversity backgrounds.
Absolutely. Moving forward, Sumit, Muslim women have been legally discriminated against. Even the rights which are protected under the Shariat are not granted to Muslim women, and this talk of reform has somewhere been subjugated by the political noise that we hear around this entire issue. Sumit ji.
Are we referring, or to some extent when we go to the court cases, of course the most prominent one in such matter was the Shah Banu case, where maintenance was given by the court despite the local laws there. But we must understand, when we are coming to create an entire uniform civil code under the constitution, we have to keep in mind that we are a country of diverse culture, religion, and custom. We cannot simply impose something without taking into consideration various aspects. And not only about Muslim or a particular religion. There are several tribes, like you rightly mentioned, where, again, the constitution provides under Article 29 that minorities can conserve their own culture. So we are going beyond that also. And there are not only polygamy that is being talked about, there are polyandry practices that is happening.
That's a very small, you're right, they're happening in matrilineal societies, especially in the Northeast.
I'll give you the statistics. According to the National Family Health Survey, 1.6% of the tribal people exist till today who are in the practice of polyandry. So, like the Todas tribe or the Jahansuri tribe in Uttarakhand. So there are, in various states have this, and everything needs to be taken into consideration. We cannot restrict ourselves. to a particular minority religion factor or not.
Rashmi, coming to you, when it comes to this entire criticism that there is no substantial proposal on the table, and perhaps all of us are missing one crucial aspect, which I believe most experts have pointed out, that yes, this is about the Muslim personal law, but the facets of all laws, including Hindus, tribals, all communities in this country are going to be touched upon. Even the Goan civil code that exists right now, there are various problems under that civil code. And if there is a UCC which is brought in, even that will be affected.
Well, Anusha, I think all these arguments are on one part of the table. But then, when you wake up to news like a 15-year-old girl's marriage being legalized by the Delhi High Court, which happened very recently, only last year, it shakes you to the core. I think the atrocities outweigh the arguments on the other side, and that the side of the UCC is much heavier. The argument is much more sound to have something that will stop these atrocities against women and ensure that women are given equal justice and have equal dignity in our society.
Is this really about the imposition of the majority mindset on the minority, or the idea of a Hindu Rashtra like some panelists have been talking about? Rashmi?
Anusha, we need to recognize that in India, Hindus might be the largest population, but then Muslims are the second largest population in this country. They're not a micro minority. So we need to stop this whole argument about majoritarianism and minoritarianism, because that does not apply here unless you're making a narrative out of it. If you look at the facts on the table, any argument can have two sides. But the argument which supports the UCC, it far outweighs the arguments on the other side. And most arguments I'm seeing against the UCC are nothing but narratives. Because if someone's going to come down and say it's about Hindu Rashtra, then they're just trying to build narrative about this, because there's nothing to say that any of these laws are in any way going to affect that. These are a completely different, these are addressing completely different aspects of our society. And it brings justice to that sect of people who have been facing atrocities.
Saira, is it not worrying? While I agree, and I have reiterated through this debate and many other debates that I've had in the last 2 weeks, that Uniform Civil Code is an intricate, complex idea, but it's a needed reform in this country. We must take one step forward. When a marriage of a 15-year-old girl is said to be legal under the Shariat practice and something that the court cannot take action against because personal laws are protected in this country, I'm sure it worries you as a reasonable, well-educated, well-traveled woman.
See, I will say one thing, that even though Islam has room for polygamy, you show me the number of cases and show me how much is the prevalence in society. Because here, when we go, when we go by social evils like polygamy, we have seen it happening in the tribal areas and the poorest uneducated households. And this is cut across different societies and religion. My contention is, if the draft is ready, talk about it. Because here we are taking sides. We are simply arguing for and against without even having the draft ready.
So if I put
I think here it's too early.
I agree with you.
I think it's more of beating of drums. I think it is beating of drums before the 2024 general elections to polarize society. If Mr. Narendra Modi and the BJP have a draft ready, please show it to the citizenry of India. That is all I'm asking, because here
Saira, isn't part of building consensus? Isn't the entire process of building consensus is about having the debates like we're having, or having open discussions about the idea of a uniform civil code, or having different point of view on a similar platform like here, and having an intelligent debate and discussion. This is part of building a consensus in this country. It's not going to be a sweet talk. All of us will have to put our problems and objections on the table and work towards it. I put this suggestion across that when it comes to child marriage and polygamy, irrespective of the communities or the tribes that we are operating in, there should be a national law on this issue, and it should be outlawed. It does not matter what the proportion is. It does not matter how many people still come into it. There should be a legal constitutional position in this country that polygamy should be outlawed. Is that something acceptable to you, Saira, in your understanding?
So I'm saying the UCC is desired as the founders of our constitution, the makers of the Constituent Assembly. That is the reason it is in the directive principles of state policy. However, they've said that it is not mandatory. It is desired. And here, whether you talk about anybody
Sarah,
who is a
should we have a
top
law against
intellectual,
polygamy?
of the
Should we
country,
have a law against
whether it is
polygamy?
Mr. Amartya Sen, even Mr. Amartya Sen, that it is nothing but the draft for a Hindu Rashtra. So definitely we need to understand if you are implementing, if the Bharatiya Janata Party is implementing a new law, the citizenry has every right to ask what is going to be done away with. Will zakat be done away with?
Sumit,
Will nikah be done away with?
I don't think. I think I said that in the beginning of the debate. These are all myths. These are all myths. Come on, UK and US have a common civil code. Have people stopped conducting Christian marriages or Hindu marriages in that country, or nikah doesn't happen there? A civil code does not operate like that. Sumit, please make a quick point, and I then want to take last words from Ms. Zakia Soman as well.
We are harping upon polygamy time and again.
Yeah.
Yes. Already the Indian Penal Code, Section 494, makes polygamy an offense in our country.
Yeah, but not to all communities.
What we need is the enforceability and practical implementation of the laws in existence. So let's not confuse.
No, but polygamy is not an offense under Muslim personal law. It is not an offense in various other tribes and communities which are protected under the 6th schedule and various other provisions of the Indian Constitution. Zakia ji, as I close this debate, I want to close it on a constructive note with you, and I want you to talk about it. Codification of a Muslim personal law is one aspect which has not been spoken of. Before the UCC, many legal experts argue that you need to be able to codify the Muslim personal law like you did in the case of Hindu personal law, and then begin the process of rationalization and some degree of uniformity that you can bring in. Do you agree with that suggestion?
That would be the ideal scenario, Anusha. And we have been calling for codification of Muslim family laws for the last 20 years based on the Quranic injunctions and in consonance with the constitutional values of justice and equality. So good. At least this announcement of UCC on the part of the BJP and the Prime Minister has led to some Muslim scholars now talking about codification. Earlier, when we were demanding codification, they never felt the need to respond to that. So that positive development has happened. I feel gender justice and equality should be at the heart of this debate.
Okay.
Diversity should be upheld at all costs, but not at the cost of allowing misogynist and discriminatory practices for all genders, across all faith backgrounds, all ethnicities, all castes. So we need a better gender-friendly India, legally speaking and socially speaking, and the responsibility is on the government as well as on the society to work together.
Any personal law that violates the right to equality or the fundamental rights that I have as a citizen or a woman in this country, that needs to go. With that thought, I end this debate. Thank you all for joining us on the broadcast and being a part of the panel this evening. Well, we are slipping into a very short break. Up next on the other side, a proposal for VVIP lanes from the Congress party in the state of Karnataka sparks a mega controversy, angering both the BJP and the citizenry. Amid the infrastructure woes plaguing the state, is this the power trip proposal from the party which came into power on the promise of citizen welfare? Much on the other side.
As well as Sachin Pilot. KC Venugopal just said that everyone should follow party discipline. If someone steps out of line, action will be taken. But if we look at what Sachin Pilot's been doing for all these weeks, he has not followed the party line. At the same time, he's openly hit out at Ashok Gehlot. That resolution seems to be far from over, even in the run-up to the Rajasthan elections.
Yes, and but you know, based on how the Congress party won the Karnataka election, because if you remember initially, of course, there was fight between DK Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah, and remember a similar sort of a meeting was done in the national capital here, where Rahul Gandhi, where Mallikarjun Kharge intervened and said that until and unless we are not united, we will not be able to defeat the BJP in Karnataka. And because of the win that happened with the united front that has in fact been put up by DK Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah till the end of the elections. Perhaps that is why they won, is what the Congress party believes, and a similar strategy needs to be followed not just in Rajasthan but also in Chhattisgarh. That is probably why last week we have seen how the infighting, though it is not that out in open when it comes to Bhupesh Baghel and T.S. Singh Dio, but there have in fact been war of words as far as the CM and the Deputy Chief Minister post is concerned. And to put all these gossips and fight at rest, the High Command decided to make T.S. Singh Dio the Deputy Chief Minister. But when it comes to Rajasthan, it has always been very complicated for the Congress party. But here also they want to make sure that with the campaign mode, with party going into the campaign mode, with candidates going to be selected by the first week of September, they want to ensure that there are no infighting and wants to make sure that none of these leaders go out and make statements, because this has happened time and again in Rajasthan, where we have seen Ashok Gehlot coming out and attacking Sachin Pilot going and sitting on a dharna against Ashok Gehlot government, his own government. So clearly that needs to first of all stop, and accordingly a decision to resolve that what is going to be the next responsibility that will be given to Sachin Pilot is something that is, of course, we are being told by our sources that probably by today evening or tomorrow, a decision on that will also be taken. But as far as this meeting was concerned, this was solely on the strategy of the elections, for the upcoming Rajasthan elections. That was done. But as far as the responsibility for Sachin Pilot is concerned, there could be a separate meeting, there could be a separate release or a statement where it will be made clear that what is the responsibility that is going to be given to Sachin Pilot and whether he will be sufficed with that, whether he will be okay with that. Apart from that, he has also made 3 demands. One is, of course, investigation on the former...
Right. Thank you, Sharon, for getting us the latest from the Congress camp. Now, the West Bengal Panchayat polls are on July 8th, and the political temperature remains high in the state. Today is the last day of campaigning. Security has been tightened in the state, considering that violence that has killed more than 12 people ahead of the polls continues unabated. On Wednesday, fresh violence was reported in the Nadia district between CPM and TMC workers. Several security personnel were injured during the clashes. Right, so that is the latest coming in from the state of West Bengal, ladies and gentlemen. What we are seeing over there is the violence continuing unabated in the state of West Bengal right ahead of the Panchayat elections. Now we're getting a piece of breaking news. And West Bengal Governor Ananda Bose takes aim at Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. He blames the State Election Commission for the killings that have taken place in the run-up to the Panchayat elections. Let's listen in.
Bangore, Basandi, Kuch Bihar, Murshidabad, Purulia. Who is responsible for this? Who is responsible for this? Who is the killer? Will the State Election Commissioner SEC please raise his hand? Will the SEC please raise his hand? You should know who are the killers. You are the custodian of the lives of people during election. My constitutional appointee, you have failed, in my opinion, in your duty. You have failed the people. You are responsible for the corpses that fell on the streets.
And with that reaction, the TMC has now hit out at the governor, claiming he used the label of governor to go around filling the shoes of a BJP agent. That is the pitch coming in from TMC leader Kunal Ghosh. He says, why did he need to do a press conference calling out the TMC? That isn't his job. Let's listen.
রাজ্যপালের নামে সিভি আনন্দ বোস যে কাজটা করলেন, বিজেপির দালাল, বিজেপির এজেন্ট, আজ ভোটের রাজনৈতিক দলগুলির প্রচারের শেষ দিন। সেই প্রচারের শেষ দিনে উনি বিজেপির দালালি করে আর বিরোধীদের হয়ে প্রচার করে উনি প্রমাণ করে দিলেন যে উনি রাজনীতিই করছেন। রাজ্যপালের তো কাজ আছে, রাজ্যপালের কাজ প্রেস কনফারেন্স করে রাজনীতির বক্তৃতা দেওয়া নয়।
And I'm joined by Kamalika Sen Gupta on the broadcast. Kamalika, the war of words only.
Well, Welcome back. The Karnataka Speaker UT Khader has sparked a major controversy after making a pitch. The National Highways Authority of India should introduce special lanes for MLAs and former MLAs. This is for a smooth movement. The pitch was made to the Public Work Department Minister Satish Jarkioli as well, after Congress MLA Abhay Prasad complained that he's often stopped at the toll plazas and asked to show his ID card. Well, that can be a pain. Meanwhile, another Congress MLA, Narendra Swamy, accused toll plaza officials of misbehaving with them. The BJP and the citizen activists have rained in fire on the Congress party, which championed the welfare politics ahead of elections and the run-up to elections during the campaigning, accusing the Grand Old Party of exposing its real VIP culture and the mindset after winning elections. After the outrage, you had Karnataka Speaker doing a U-turn, saying he meant that there is a need for emergency lanes and not separate lanes for netas. However, many activists have pointed out that such lanes exist and commuters use the FASTags for smooth traffic. Amid the infrastructure woes faced by the urban centres in the state for years, remember what Bengaluru faced. Is this a proposal of power trip that reeks of VVIP culture? We talk on Viewpoint tonight.
ಕರೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಲೈನ್ VIP ಲೈನ್ ಅವರ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಮಾಜಿ ಶಾಸಕರು ಸೇರ್ಪಡೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಕ್ರಮ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು.
ये तो स्पीकर साहब की अध्यक्ष में एक सभा हो रहा है, उसमें चर्चा हो जाएंगे. अगर मेरा ख्याल से अभी ऑलरेडी VIP लाइन है सेपरेटिज्म, सो अभी आया बनाने का शायद जरूरत नहीं है.
MLAs, many of them they were arrested. They said, please give us a pass also, and this issue is there. And seniors ex-MLA told in the NHAI guidelines, policy, where they have got already emergency and representative lane is there. In that MLAs and other names are specified. Ex-MLAs are not specified. We are also respected and dignified and and aged also. So for us also you should consider the request was there by your ex-MLAs.
In our government, these issues had come up, but we had never allowed any VIP culture. But however, it has come from the speaker. It's really surprising. And probably under the pressure of the Congress colleagues, he might have done it.
A government should be of the people, by the people and for the people. That's what Constitution says. But VIP culture has been rampant in our country. And today what the speaker said and then did a U-turn only reminds us of this VIP culture that continues to persist. We have a full panel joining us on the broadcast. But if you have a view, you can also call us live 0120-434-1895. Our lines are open. We'll try and include your view into the story tonight on Viewpoint. Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Vijay Prasad, the spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP. Lavanya Balal from the Congress party is also with us on the broadcast. Shrikant Narasimhan, who's an activist, is with us on the show. And Professor Chandan Gaura, who's the professor at the Institute of Social and Economic Change, is also joining us on the broadcast. Lavanya, why don't you open the debate for us? I don't know how to put this across, but I found it absolutely absurd and reeking of a VVIP culture when you talk about a separate lane for the MLAs or netas in our country. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I agree with you that this VIP culture is getting out of hand in India across different states. We have seen this. And our Khader, Honorable Speaker, Mr. UT Khader, was speaking on behalf of MLAs from all parties and not just for Congress MLAs. If you look at his speech before he spoke today, if you look at the earlier speech also, he is asking that for MLAs and former MLAs. He does not say it is only for Congress MLAs. So he's asking that for all the MLAs and ex-MLAs. And like Satish Jarkioli, our PWD minister, made it very clear, yes, when a request is raised, we will look into the request. But he also very clearly said, we already have an emergency lane. In case of an emergency, anybody can use that. Having said that, I think it is time for the netas to be a little more sensitive and understand every day when they're traveling through the national highway, is an emergency, they can wait. And as far as our other MLA, Mr. Abhay, Prasad Abhay, was upset that because he was stopped, and I think he's getting stopped at a particular toll booth every time. That is very surprising. That has to be checked because every MLA and MLC, if you notice, have a code.
One point. Lavanya, how is that any kind of valid caveat or any kind of plausible deniability if it is for all the MLAs? It does not matter. I ask this question to you as a journalist, not as somebody from the BJP. I'll take BJP also into the discussion. But the fact that Speaker chose to speak about the subject tells us that in some way he found it valid. And I'm questioning that wisdom of the Honorable Speaker as to how he can make a statement like that or a proposal like that. Secondly, if an MLA, one second, another point and then you can respond. If an MLA has to show his ID card multiple times at the toll booth plaza, what is the big deal about it? They can. All of us show our ID cards when we have to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's what I was coming to. If Prasad has to show his ID card multiple times, then he also should display the ID. Like I have seen a lot of leaders from different parties, their ID is shown, put there right there near the driver's side. And usually if it is an emergency, they pass the toll booth, the people see that and they are allowed to travel. Now, Khader sir's request is a little weird for me, especially because our CM has very clearly said, we do not want zero traffic for the CM's office, right?
Mr. Vijay Prasad, I want you to come into the discussion. It wasn't just for the Congress MLAs. It was for all the MLAs, and somehow that makes it more palatable. How do you see that?
MLAs cutting across the party lines. Finally, MLA is a common man who gets facilities from the taxpayers' money. Why should he be treated differently and be privileged and think it as an entitlement the moment he or she becomes MLA or MP? They forget they are the public servants. It is nauseating to see from the Congress side that one is asking for a separate line and to be treated like a VVIP. That means to say, Congress, even after getting routed across the country, is yet to get out of autocratic or elitism mindset. See, Congress wants to bring up this status symbol where BJP ended this red beacon light culture. On one hand, we have PM who did away with the Lal Batti culture, red beacon light culture. On the other side, we have Congress who wants to bring back the elitism and entitlement culture. See, I was hearing the Congress spokesperson say it is childish to say MLA is being harassed at the toll plaza or toll gate by the staff. MLA will have his staff, gunmen and others, and in no way can be harassed.
Well, I believe this is a story that has concerned the people also. I completely agree with the point. I'll come to you, Lavanya. I'll come back to you.
No.
Yes, finish your point, Vijayji. Then I want to take in two callers. Yes.
Now, almost all toll plaza across the country has fast tags. And you can, whether you are a VVI, whether you are a minister or a common man, you can exit all the toll plazas within seconds.
I agree with the word that you used. It's nauseous to make an observation like that. I quickly want to take one caller, then I'll bring in two other guests on the broadcast. We have Aman from Jaipur. Aman, what are your thoughts? Quickly, please.
My thought is that VIP culture is a historical truth and it continues to be in practice in present time. After the power and position, majority of the people, they feel they are the VIP and they should be treated differently. There is a disparity in the society, entire India, we can see there are another issue. The irony of the present day is that the ruler or the politician do not address the real issues. They want only the VIP culture. And majority of them, like the present case or anywhere there may be 100 cases, they are believe in that should be given VIP treatment, but they should not be asked about the real issue.
Yeah, the sense of entitlement. Why should I show my identity card? You might have to. Professor Chandan Gaura, please come into this. How do you see the statement? How do you see the statement that came from the speaker? He explained his position, U-turn of sorts, but the mere suggestion that there should be a special lane for the netas.
Like others have noted, the special lanes already exist. And if you have used them, you know that they're really not very special in the sense anyone can use it, really. They're open to all. But the speaker, it looks like, has responded under some quick pressure, because two MLAs complaining, he must have immediately said, this is what we should do. It's clearly not the best thing he could have done under the circumstances, but we know the context. But like one of the other panelists said, the chief minister, the first thing he did the very next day after becoming CM was to say, I don't want traffic, I want zero traffic corridors or whatever.
Yeah.
That is a signal of sorts to saying that we should do away with these kinds of perks that inconvenience the public. And I think, so therefore, I think the speaker ought to have also been mindful of that precedent.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, this occasion is too small, but since we have a national debate on this, we may as well now use the occasion to ask in what ways can the VIP culture, quote unquote, be undone slowly, constructively, meaningfully.
What is your suggestion, Professor? How can that be undone? I believe unless we have the sense of outrage at the sort of comments that were made today, we won't begin to see the change.
Yeah, no, I think it's an occasion to reflect, and I think the VIP culture has been going on, and it's reflected. Even in the airport, you'll find special lanes for VIPs. These are obvious things, but there are so many ways in which our politicians are extraordinarily privileged, and some of which is inevitable, comes with the job, but some of it can be done away with, and I think those things will need to be worked on.
Mr. Shrikant Narasimhan, through the year, we have covered this story from Bengaluru and different urban centers in the state of Karnataka, where urban infrastructure is a huge problem. I'm not saying that the present government in the state of Karnataka is not doing anything about it. That's a priority that the Chief Minister has underlined. But this discourse and the words that were uttered by the speaker today and the suggestion of certain Congress MLAs or the complaints, quote unquote, that they made, they're not palatable, they're nauseating, as the BJP rightly said.
Absolutely. The very fact that a topic like this is being taken up for discussion by the speaker in the assembly, it might have been in response to one or two MLAs' demands or pressures. It doesn't matter. The fact that such a topic is even being taken up for discussion in the assembly shows the depths to which our governance levels have fallen. The city is faced with a myriad of problems. Traffic not being the least of those. There are a whole host of problems to be solved. I don't see any discussion happening there. We have introduced free bus rides for women in the city. We don't have enough buses. We need bus lanes for the city and more buses. I don't see any discussion happening on that.
That's a very important point.
We need cycle lanes for the city. We don't have any discussion on that. But somehow, a special lane for MLAs is worthy of a discussion in assembly. Absolutely outrageous, absolutely ridiculous. And through discussions and debates like these, I hope that these discussions are not even brought up for any kind of...
We hope. I also hope that as a journalist that I don't have to debate all of this, and this is beyond a debate, and I think all of us on the panel, including Lavanya, agrees on that. Before I go back to the Congress party, I quickly want to take one caller, Lavanya, then I'll come back to you. We have Colonel GTS Work from Mohali. He has something to say. Colonel, please go ahead. Quickly make your point, sir.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Thanks. The most important thing we all must understand is the security. We have one of the finest systems now which has started so far, toll barriers and toll these roads are concerned. These are acting as a fantastic security, check providers also. So the name of VIPs or differentiating ourselves differently from these, I think they should not be given any exclusive rights as regards security is concerned. If they have sufficient money, in the departments, they should put, whether he's a VIP or whether he's a police car, a fast tag must be put. Once we put the fast tag on these people, they will be part of us only, and they will start realizing
and you're right, Colonel, if we have a proper infrastructure mechanism in this country, we will not need this culture. Lavanya, please go ahead. I'm sure you have a lot of points that you want to retort.
Yes, Anusha, I would like to remind the BJP of the VIP culture that they were accusing the Congress of. Sir, it was your MP from Bengaluru South, Mr. Tejasvi Surya, who accidentally apparently opened the exit door, which delayed the flight by 2 hours, and we had the entire union government ministry coming to his defense. Anusha, I agree with you. The VIP culture has to stop, no matter who makes the request. And I would also like to remind the BJP spokesperson, he is the speaker for all parties, not just Congress party right now. But if you're refuting it, sir, that's good.
I'll come back to you, sir. Vijayji, I'll come back to you. Let her make her point. I'll come back to you. Yes.
Yeah. Bomai sir was the CM of the state. It was your Mahadevpura MLA, the former MLA's daughter, who threatened the cops on the road, sir, saying, do you know who am I? Do you know who my father is? So please, sir, when you're pointing fingers at Congress for making a request, right?
But Lavanya, there was something constructive that was said by Mr. Narasimhan. Professor Ghosh also pointed out some things, and he said that there are problems of buses in the state right now. You know, free bus passes were given by the Chief Minister. Great, you did that thing. But right now there's a problem of public infrastructure. There's a problem of roads and urban infrastructure. No discussion on that.
No, Anusha, there is no discussion on why after 45 days, after 50 days, we do not have a leader of opposition in Karnataka. This has happened for the first time.
We covered that story. We covered that story extensively, and we asked the questions to the BJP. But I'm afraid that the working of the government is far more important than the working of the opposition. Yes, yes. Sir, please go ahead and make your point. I want Vijayji to come into the discussion.
Yeah, see, Anusha, Congress has been routed across the country. Okay, they think winning Karnataka is winning like India, winning India. So that is not the case. So it was BJP who
Lavanya, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you.
Elitist view, elitist culture, and Lal Bhakti culture, red light beacon culture. And now Congress wants to bring back the old memories after winning Karnataka. And this will not be the case. People will not like this VVIP culture, status symbol culture, and Congress wants to live with that. That means to say that the mindset of the Congress has not changed at all. What have they learned over the years?
All right, Lavanya. I will take a couple of callers also, but a quick response from Lavanya. I have last few minutes on the show. Yes, Lavanya.
Yes. I'd like to remind Mr. Vijay Prasad, sir, you were routed out of Karnataka, you were routed out of Himachal Pradesh. So please remember that when you keep talking about other parties being routed out of this every state or out of the country, sir.
All right.
You talk about the elitist culture,
that political debate aside, I think one thing we all can agree with, Lavanya, that this VVIP culture needs to go, and more importantly, the speaker was not morally correct in making the suggestion that he did. I want to take one last caller as we close this debate, and that's for all the panelists to hear what people think. Jai is calling us. Jai, what are your thoughts? Quickly, please.
Yeah, Anusha, first of all, I think that this whataboutery of Congress spokesperson is ridiculous. Secondly, if she says that the speaker is speaking for everyone, did he take a vote, like a voice vote or anything, that before raising this issue, that everyone is in agreement of this?
All right,
thirdly, if the MLA has to show his ID card, it's only because he doesn't want to pay. If he has if he pays like everyone else, if he has that ID on his
I will close this debate with what I began with, and that's all the time that I have. I want to thank you all, Lavanya Balal, Mr. Vijay Prasad, Narasimhan, and Professor Chandan Kaura for joining us on the broadcast. Our government, or the people, the ministers, the MLAs, it's a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. And the VVIP culture, the entire culture of entitlement needs to go from this country. That's what the Prime Minister said. Interestingly, the State Chief Minister also highlighted this when he assumed office in the state of Karnataka. While we talk about that story and much more, it's a wrap on this edition of Viewpoint. Thank you so much for watching.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Violence and polls in the state of West Bengal go hand in hand. Arson, unrest, violent clashes and chaos are not clandestine in Bengal's political landscape. In and out of election season, especially, the state simmers with continuous clashes. This has become the norm, persisting for several decades. And same scenes have played out during current Panchayat poll campaign as well, where the state witnessed violence and clashes resulting in the loss of at least 17 lives. Now, since 1977, only the left and the TMC have ruled the state of West Bengal, and both have failed to curb this violence during polls in the state. Today, Bengal Governor Mr. Bose came down very heavily on the State Election Commission and its chief, pinning the blame for the deaths at the latter's door. A question does arise: why does West Bengal experience such rampant violence? Why do governments struggle to control or eradicate this persistent violence? And did the state, for this year, failed to curb this time? We'll be taking those questions to our guests in just a bit. First up, take a look at what the Bengal governor has said today. He has hit out in the strongest of ways. He said State Poll Panel Chief Rajiv failed in discharging his duties. Went on to say, ensure the protection of people's life during polls. Why is there gruesome violence under your rule, he asked. He went on to say, police, magistrate and state machinery is under your control. You, he said, talking about the SEC, which is the State Election Commissioner, are responsible for the corpses on the streets of Bengal. And he went on to also say, Bengal expects you to do your duty. Now, this is because just yesterday, a 17-year-old boy was killed in a crude bomb explosion in North 24 Parganas. Before that, a TMC worker was also killed in the same district due to a crude bomb explosion, the one that